taking us in like a different direction when they're talking about TV, right? Like when we're starting to get into these type of shows, we're getting into a whole different direction now. Okay, so let's kind of get a little more into it. Let's get deeper into it. Okay, so when we start talking about the Twilight Zone, man, the Twilight Zone and Rod Serling were just on another level. Like they were literally on another level in terms of like the TV that they were actually making, like the storytelling that Rob Steiger was showing us, man. This guy right here is I'm telling you, I don't know if he gets enough credit for what he was coming up with story wise, in 1959, right? This is on a whole nother level than anybody else because it's mass psychological. He had a lot of censorship issues, you can imagine, because he was constantly pushing the envelope. His shows had commentary about racism, war, politics, like a lot of them. Like he was really upfront with like making some like strong statements, like through this lens of the Twilight Zone. So that's kind of the back end side of it, right? But we're gonna stay true to what the Twilight Zone was. That's why we're here, to kind of get into the mythology of the Twilight Zone, right? So to understand the Twilight Zone, we gotta understand what the Twilight Zone actually is and what it isn't, right? The Twilight Zone itself is not a physical space, right? You don't go to the Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone is not some place where you get in your car and you drive to the Twilight Zone. You don't go to the Twilight Zone, you end up in the Twilight Zone. That's how the Twilight Zone works, okay? You don't go there, you end up there. And you never know in advance that you're going to the Twilight Zone. The only time that you realize when you're in the Twilight Zone, it's already too late. That's the whole nature of the Twilight Zone. It's not a space, right? This is a cosmic threshold. And when you're experiencing the Twilight Zone, essentially, you've crossed the line between realities. Hang on one sec. I'm going to close this door. Hang on. Okay, so that's the issue with the Twilight Zone. Like, this is a liminal space, which forces us to kind of explain what are liminal spaces, right? Like a liminal space is that place where reality starts to split a little bit, right? It's a threshold between realities. Every mythology, at least, has some type of liminal space, right? Liminal spaces are very important. If you're talking like Southern, like American Southern belief systems, or more indigenous or native belief systems, the swamps were liminal spaces, like in between spaces where like, beings could cross over. If you go to Greek mythology, liminal spaces were caves, like you go through a cave and end up in the underworld. So liminal spaces were great because they just were well, I guess they weren't great, but this is what they exist, and we move in these spaces all the time. Like we're always moving it. And Rod Serling himself describes it. He says like the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition. That in itself is the Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone is 100% that, right? And what you get with the Twilight Zone is where reality breaks down. Like they're borrowing things, but overall, like you're not going to get reality in the Twilight Zone. Now you start realizing stuff like, yeah, there's aliens who are, watching and judging mankind. That's what's going on in the Twilight Zone, right? There's these time loops that just you get sucked in, and it's just all up in your noodle, and you're never going to get out of these time loops. Like you see weird stuff going on there, man. You see Talkie Tina right there, right? You see Talkie Tina, and it's problematic, man. It's problematic. Now, I'm not saying that Talking Tina was not dispensing justice. I'm not saying that Talking Tina was not dispensing justice. Like, the pops in that Talking Tina episode, yeah, deserve it, right? Deserve it, right? You got what you deserve for not being nice to that little girl. Like, I get that. Don't marry a woman with children if you don't want to be nice to the kids, right? And that's where he was. So she got Talking Tina like she was representing justice. But this is what you got to deal with. When you realize you're in the Twilight Zone, you're like, oh man, right? You're like, oh man, I'm in the Twilight Zone, because it's already too late by the time you realize it. if you realize it, right, you might never actually come, like, sometimes people don't make the realization that they're like, I'm in the Twilight Zone. You're like, oh man, why did I come to the Twilight Zone? Why did I was like, I typed in AutoZone and I ended up in the Twilight Zone, right? That's how it is. I thought I was in the zone, but it was the Twilight Zone, and it's a whole different space. And in this space, like, you get prophetic visions, you get, reality manipulation. Like, almost anything can happen. Anything can happen in the Twilight Zone. Like, the Twilight Zone is just like a default for whatever, right? Whatever was going to happen, it's probably going to happen here. If you could envision it happening, it can actually happen here. And the thing about the Twilight Zone is that it's like a cosmic courtroom. You're going to get judged by what you did. You're going to get judged for being a racist, right? It does. Like, this is why he had trouble with this stuff, man, right? Because you're going to get punished for not being a good person. The Twilight Zone is brutal on that. It doesn't let you get away with a lot of stuff. Okay, I'm telling you guys right now.
Listen and listen good.
Okay?
I'm talking to you. Right? Me and Mr. T are talking to you. Listen and listen good. Okay? Because you never know when you're going to end up in the Twilight Zone. And you need to be ready. So prep yourself, because whatever you do bad, that's what the Twilight Zone is about to disrespect you for, right? If you were a Nazi, if you're a racist, you're going to be like a Jew in, Poland in 1939, right? That's what it's going to give you. This thing has irony on lock. This is a place, like, one thing, like, reality might break down, but irony gets stronger. Like, it understands irony better than anybody else, right? Like, seriously, it understands irony better than anybody that I know. It will pull something that you did in your life out, and it's gonna be live and direct for everybody to see. It's gonna be live and direct for everybody to see. That's what the Twilight Zone is. This is not a place of forgiveness. The Twilight Zone is a place that wants that stuff to happen. It wants it to go down. It wants you, right?
No way.
Yes way.
Nobody understands us.
Yes.
And they won't understand until it is far too late.
See, that's what we trying to tell you. You're not going to understand until it's far too late. Thank you, Henrietta, right? So the Twilight Zone is that liminal space. It is constantly returning to those themes of punishment and arrogance. These show themes of, like, fear of the unknown. We have paranoia. We have Cold War fears. We have anxiety, afraid of machinery. It has social commentary. It has poetic justices that happen all the time. You get humans disguised as aliens disguised as humans. Like, they had a meeting. It was like two different alien groups were like, yeah, I'm taking over Earth. Another group's like, no, we're taking over Earth, right? At the same time. So we're constantly being overrun, right? You get gremlins. I don't know if you've seen the most famous episode, the William Shatner episode, where he's on a plane. And it's terrible because he's looking at the gremlins actually tearing the plane apart. Like, the gremlins are sitting on the wing of the plane, and they're like, hey, look, they're waving to him while they tear the plane up, and then they disappear when anybody else looks, right? So they're driving him crazy on top of tearing the plane down. And this comes out of, if you understand, World War II era America, you understand why gremlins was such, like, a terrifying thing, right? This is what gremlins were. This is our culture. This is our war culture, like, coming right back to us, right? We're 100% in that war culture, and the failure, like, we were mass producing machinery, and then it's like, why is stuff always breaking? It was gremlins. Planes would take off, so it was very much tied to it. So it was a very real thing. In the Twilight Zone, we got ghosts, right? We got, cosmic beings that cross over into our realm, right? We got all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't want. And the thing about it is, like, it's got some absolutely legendary episodes, right? Right? The monsters are due on Maple Street. The neighborhood tears itself apart because of paranoia and lies. The Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, that's the William Shatner episode. Like, these are the ones you definitely got to check out. I'll put a link to, like, Twilight. Just go. I think you can probably watch the Twilight Zone on... Man, what is it on? I'll find what it's on, because I know I've watched some Twilight Zone very recently.
I don't think it's Tubi though. I'm not sure where it is, but I'll drop the link. I'll drop the links so you guys can catch up on Twilight Zone. Like you need to, like culturally, understand mythology. Like it's deep in the streets, man. Like we can't go far without understanding Twilight Zone, man. That's just as real as it gets. Like that's something I definitely look at as, like I said, as a super impactful show. I still watch that show right now. So like I draw a lot of analysis of that show, and shows that would come later, you know, were benefited from this show. You probably don't have, you know, X-Files. You may not have Stranger Things. So there's a lot of like, you know, like entering the Twilight Zone was the first time we stepped into something that was surreal like that. Like that's the neighborhood that we got into. A surreal neighborhood. Like this is what it is. He's telling you right from the beginning. I just loved how he introduced it so you would know exactly like you have now entered dun 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 dun. Like it was cold, man. It was ice, man. It was 100% ice, man. Loved it, man. So that brings us to Tales from the Dark Side, man. And like, man,